This is the CBS Evening News. Susan Spencer reporting. Good evening. New efforts to pressure the Sandinista government to establish democracy in Nicaragua are about to go into high gear. Foreign ministers from 4 Central American countries began arriving tonight in Guatemala, where Secretary of State Schultz will join them tomorrow. As Jacqueline Adams reports, the administration thinks the threat of renewed aid to the Contra rebels may be its ace in the hole.
On the eve of Secretary of State Schultz's departure for the region, the U.S. offensive against Nicaragua's ruling Sandinistas appears to be gaining momentum, particularly on Capitol Hill. Returning from Camp David, President Reagan was optimistic that Congress will approve a new Contra aid package. Pro-Contra aid forces in the Senate believe some limited funding can be secured within the next 2 weeks.
Definitely humanitarian in the next couple of weeks, and the potential, at least some procedure, for having some sort of fast vote on a military aid release on down the road.
Based on Ortega's recent actions, kicking out our ambassador, shutting down the newspaper, shutting down the radio, putting in prison 40 opposition leaders, I think we have more support now.
For his part, Schultz brushed aside Costa Rican and Guatemalan public complaints about U.S. efforts to craft a joint communique strongly denouncing Nicaragua.
Mostly it was written by the Central American foreign ministers, not by their offices, not by us. So we're not trying to ram anything down anybody's throat.
But some experts doubt that either tack, condemning Nicaragua or reviving Contra aid, will bring the Sandinistas back to the bargaining table, since it was the Contras who walked out.
The Sandinistas have made it perfectly clear they're ready to resume the talks at any time. It's the Contras that won't go. So how is giving aid to the Contras in any way going to bring about a resumption of the talks? It won't.
But for an administration that's been obsessed with forcing the Sandinistas to mend their ways, getting another Contra aid package successfully through the Congress could be victory enough. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, the White House.
In Hollywood, negotiations of less global import but high interest to moviegoers and TV viewers are in deep trouble tonight. Talks between striking writers and producers have collapsed and new picket lines are up. David Browning reports.
The strike has lasted nearly 5 months, producing hard times in Hollywood. Increasingly, pawn shops notice more out-of-work writers, actors, technicians turning up to put their valuables in hock.
Fine jewelry, of course. All gold and diamonds, fine watches, Rolexes, all the fine stuff.
And with few programs to make, the studios have been laying off more and more help. This was the last lunch before they shut down the commissary at Universal Pictures.
Had to lay off the whole crew. I mean, there's nobody left now.
It's sad, huh?
It's over 30 people.
Tempers are short. There have been bitter arguments between writers determined to hold out and dissidents who want to go back to work. And for the television networks, there is the prospect of a disastrous fall schedule. CBS has been rummaging through its library for TV movies to run.
Your mission, Jim, should you decide to
ABC announced it will remake Mission Impossible scripts with different actors. NBC will do the same with the Hardy Boys. And the networks have other plans.
Canadian or foreign production, much as I would hate to move the business out of town, is always a possibility.
In recent days, as talks in the strike resumed, writers held candlelight vigils in hopes of a settlement. But the negotiations collapsed this weekend over the key issue, increased payments to writers for TV reruns. And both sides dug in their heels.
The writers are not the problem. We're willing to work on a compromise, and we're willing to discuss and negotiate, but we're not going to cave in and we're not going to roll over.
Bottom line, they want more than is available. And we simply have gotten to the end of the road where we've hit a brick wall.
And this afternoon, striking writers turned up the heat a bit more, extending their picketing for the first time to a Hollywood theater, one showing Disney's summer hit, Roger Rabbit, putting pressure on the spot the studios feel it most, the box office. David Browning, CBS News, Hollywood.
Both Michael Dukakis and Vice President Bush took this Sunday off, no campaigning, and Senator Nancy Kassebaum seemed to take herself out of the GOP vice presidential sweepstakes, saying she doesn't want the job.
I don't expect him to call.
And would you accept it, though, if he did?
I have really indicated that I don't believe I'm the right balance in the ticket and that I don't wish to be considered.
Doctors today upgraded the condition of former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan from critical to serious. Jordan was rushed to the hospital yesterday after being found face down in her pool. It's still unclear what happened, but she's now expected to make a full recovery, and she reportedly was giving doctors the thumbs up sign today. There was a dramatic development today in the Middle East. In a major policy change that could complicate U.S. peace proposals, King Hussein of Jordan severed links with the occupied West Bank and told Palestinians they are on their own. Bob Simon reports.
The speech amounted to nothing less than a public renunciation of Hussein's claim to sovereignty over the West Bank of the Jordan. The king said he was cutting administrative and legal ties to the territory, which had been part of Jordan until the 1967 war. He said he was acting in response to the desire of the PLO for an independent Palestinian state. The subtitles on the screen indicated that the king was speaking to a larger audience than the occupied territories. He was telling the Israelis and the Americans that the right address for negotiations is the PLO. Israel had already responded to that message. This morning, it locked up Faisal Husseini, a leading PLO activist on the West Bank, for 6 months. In Washington, George Shultz, for whom Hussein had been a linchpin of the peace process, said there's no way the king can say goodbye.
Jordan has the longest border with Israel of any Arab state. So if there's going to be peace between Israel and its neighbors, then Jordan is involved.
Over the last few days, Hussein canceled a $1.3 billion development loan to the West Bank and dissolved the lower house of Jordan's parliament, which represents the interest of West Bank Palestinians. What did West Bankers think about this?
If we have to take this event on face value, it means that it is a goodwill gesture.
But taking anything on face value in the Middle East is a risky proposition. Many observers say that Hussein, whose popularity on the West Bank has plummeted since the uprising began, is telling the Palestinians, see how you like it without me. That his real objective is to have the Palestinians come back to him on their knees. And there's one constant in Hussein's policy, his preference for survival. His speech tonight was delivered beneath the portrait of his grandfather Abdullah, murdered by Palestinians in Jerusalem. King Hussein does not plan to follow in his footsteps. Bob Simon, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Space shuttle engineers resume their countdown today toward the planned test firing of Discovery's main engines on Thursday. The test has been postponed 4 times in 10 days. Engineers this weekend found and fixed Discovery's latest problems, faulty oxygen pumps and a hydrogen leak. Coming up next on the CBS Evening News, how the drought has made a booming business of weather forecasting. And later on, the throes of an addiction, part of our Inside Sunday report on gambling.
On my way!
New Supercall Mint kills plaque germs.
But how does it taste?
Supercall Mint fights plaque buildup.
But how does it taste?
Plaque fighting, Supercall Mint.
But how does it taste?
Tastes great.
Like my mouth took a shower.
Refreshing.
A mint that lasts.
The best tasting way we know to fight plaque.
Shh. Listen to your mouth. That's the crunchy texture of a Triscuit. And that's the delicious whole wheat taste of a Triscuit. They're made to take on any topping or no topping. Listen to your mouth. Triscuit.
It's the Quaker State Porsche Sweepstakes and Rebate, and everybody wins. Mail in the rebate by August 5th, and you'll have $360 per case in your pocket, a great oil in your engine, and maybe a Porsche in your garage. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
When the burning, itching, and soreness of hemorrhoids flare up, Tux medicated pads give you soothing, cooling relief on contact. For hemorrhoid flare-up, get Tux from Park Davis.
What's the best kind of fruit? The kind that's fresh, moist, and plump. That's why Sunsweet are my favorite kind of pitted prunes. Moist, plump, and fresh. Sunsweet, because the best prunes are fresh prunes.
Minnesota was surprised today by hailstones the size of golf balls in parts of the state, and there were isolated thunder showers elsewhere. But for the most part, the drought just baked on. Illinois, northern Missouri, northern Louisiana, and southeast Oklahoma still are considered drought areas with half the normal rainfall levels for the past 4 months. And despite that precipitation today in Minnesota, both it and neighboring North Dakota remain far below normal. Recent rains have pushed Indiana, Ohio, and western Pennsylvania out of the drought category, but just barely. In many parts of the country, this year's drought has sent farmers into ruin, has caused predictions of higher food prices, and generally has made being outside miserable. But as David Culhane reports, even the lack of clouds has a silver lining.
When the current drought first showed itself in the Midwest Farm Belt, some farmers and businessmen were caught by surprise. But not Chicago grain broker Jerry Zussell. His own private weatherman had warned him in advance.
This forecast was uncannily accurate. And we decided, myself and our clients picked up on that.
Okay, listen.
Zussell now relies on a private weather forecasting industry that is making $50 million a year as businessmen come to understand how to profit from precise early reports about changes in temperature and humidity. With the earliest signs of drought, highly successful private forecaster Earl Finkel, known to his friends as Foggy, kept Zussell and other clients safe with almost hourly predictions.
If you could get a jump on a change in the commodity weather picture by maybe 60 seconds ahead of the next guy, you might make a bunch of bucks. I sometimes lick my chops at how many million did this guy make off of my information.
Utilities are told when to expect peak air conditioning or heat demands. Construction workers are advised when they can pour concrete. Farmers, film producers, ski resorts, more and more businesses are dependent on forecasters who give detailed reports on conditions all over the world. Even chocolate makers.
They don't want to send chocolate candies into areas in which the temperatures are excessive.
And bookies are important clients.
People in Las Vegas who are interested in knowing whether the wind is blowing out at Wrigley Field on any given day, because a lot more runs are likely to be scored.
And for that kind of forecast, they're willing to pay as much as $25,000 a year. So the news this summer is that the weather is still hot, and the weather reporting business is even hotter. David Culhane, CBS News, New York.
Some of the estimated 2,000 evacuated residents of rural Altoona, Iowa, returned to their homes today following yesterday's head-on collision between two freight trains. Safety officials have decided to let the two blazing derailed tank cars carrying denatured alcohol just burn themselves out. 2 crewmen on one of those trains were killed. A bomb early this morning destroyed the Paris headquarters of the French magazine Globe, which often supports left-wing causes. There's been no claim of responsibility, but the magazine recently named politicians it claims are sympathetic to the extreme right-wing National Front. And Defense Secretary Frank Carlucci begins an unprecedented visit to the Soviet Union tomorrow. Soviet officials said today that Carlucci will be taken to top-secret air and naval bases.
When people buy telephone service, particularly businessmen when they buy telephone service, they're not buying telephone service, they're buying a business capability. Think about your customers trying to reach you. Think about them trying to place an order and they can't get through because somebody hasn't engineered your access lines right, or somebody hasn't provided you the right kind of support in terms of how you design a telemarketing center. That's real money to you. That's why you buy AT&T services, because AT&T makes a difference to your business. That's the bottom line.
We love visiting America.
Hot dog, fried chicken, pizza.
But we're glad you have Kaopectate.
Kaopectate.
New maximum strength Kaopectate tablets. Nothing relieves diarrhea and cramps faster.
The diarrhea specialist.
After flying so many aircraft, I'm not easily impressed with car performance. Then I drove the Cutlass Supreme pace car at the Indy 500. I was impressed.
In USAC test, Cutlass Supreme outcornered the Acura Legend and brake better than the Ford Thunderbird LX. And the Cutlass Supreme costs a whole lot less.
So I got 3 of them. Hey, I got 2 kids, boys.
And now Oldsmobile will buy the air conditioning for you when you buy a 1988 Cutlass Supreme by September 28th.
Folks,
For dentures that feel fresh as a morning breeze, try my Mint Fresh Polident. It's got a minty mouthwash ingredient, so it freshens up dentures as it cleans tough stains. Try Super Strength Polident Green, the mouth freshening clean. Ah.
Voters in Detroit will decide this week whether that city should allow casinos. Tonight on Inside Sunday, we're going to take a look at gambling, the people who love it, the places that permit it and promote it. In Detroit, the mayor is pushing gambling as a way to revitalize the city. But opponents point to Atlantic City and say, don't bet on it. Atlantic City has a long history of fun, from boxing kangaroos to beaming Miss Americas. The city, whose street names still dot monopoly boards, always has loved a good time. And 10 years of legal gambling haven't changed that. The casinos generate $200 million tax dollars a year. Atlantic City has become the country's #1 tourist resort. That was supposed to happen. But according to a recent survey, Atlantic City is also the worst place to live in America. That wasn't supposed to happen.
10 years ago, the people literally thought the streets would be paved with gold, that everybody would be rich, that there would be no taxes.
But everybody is not rich. Slums surround the glitter, in part because the state earmarked the new tax dollars for statewide programs for the elderly and disabled, not for urban renewal. The dream of helping the inner city poor has faded, but legalized gambling has created an unexpected boom for the suburban middle class.
It was intended to be a success in urban renewal, and it has proven to be a great success in suburban renewal.
Gambling has provided 63,000 new jobs for people who don't want to live near work. People like Eileen Bransfield, a single mother employed at an Atlantic City hotel. She lives 30 minutes away.
The town I live in, everywhere you look, there's building. It's a wonderful place to bring up a kid. It's wonderful. There's plenty of open room. There's other kids. The schools are acceptable.
Casinos, which have come under sharp criticism for failing to invest in the city they call home, like to point to the suburbs' prosperity. Owners insist that the downtown neighborhood is just part of a greater metropolitan area that they have made prosper.
Usually the downtown is where you've got the most low-income housing, you've got the highest crime rates, you've got the most drug problems. We're no different than any other city in that respect.
But city fathers want to make it different. 10 years after it all began, the casinos keep going up, the revenues keep flowing, and Atlantic City is still trying to figure out how to get a bigger piece of the action. There is plenty of legal gambling action all over the country. While casinos are illegal in most states, more than half do have lotteries. But as Christine Negroni reports, the payoff often falls short of the promise for the gambler and for the house.
They play the lottery day after day, dreaming of striking it rich.
This is the only way I can get some money. So I keep hoping that someday I will win.
In 28 states and the District of Columbia, lawmakers share the dream. To all of them, lotteries are a seemingly painless way of getting more money for their budgets. $12 billion were spent on lottery tickets last year.
It's like the sorcerer's apprentice. They have used every method modern marketing teaches, the same methods that sell soap, sell lottery tickets, and have gone out and created a veritable money machine.
The newest lottery is here in Florida, where 3 games began in January. They are so popular, the state broke all industry records. Floridians are spending nearly $4 million on lottery tickets every day.
Well, the Florida lottery has been wildly successful beyond anyone's dreams.
This week's Lotto Grand Prize is worth $2 million to a single winner.
But in some states, lotteries have become a public relations nightmare for their intended beneficiaries.
The California lottery is raising hundreds of millions of dollars for education.
Californians are urged to play the lottery to help the schools, but the money they get is just a small part of what's needed.
On the one hand, we receive the lottery, but on the other hand, there's been a reduction in the percentage of the state budget that goes to schools. So what we received on the one hand, we've lost on the other.
$2. Okay.
We got $2. That's the winner.
Criticism of lotteries has been fueled by new data showing that despite minuscule chances of winning, poor people are playing the lottery in a big way.
Perhaps both some of the players, as well as the state, are engaging in a dance of mutual delusion here, where they both feel that this is going to be the panacea for all of their social and economic problems.
Lottery managers say what they're selling is entertainment. No one is forced to play. In Washington, some members of Congress are entertaining the idea of a federal lottery. If the proceeds go to retire the national debt, they're betting Americans will find that a winning idea. Christine Negroni, CBS News, Tampa.
Betting, of course, isn't limited to lotteries or casinos. Some people do their gambling on Wall Street. But no matter where it's done, gambling can be addictive when the payoff is not money, but thrills. Gary Reeves reports on high rollers hooked on a feeling.
The financial markets of New York and Chicago are the heart of the nation's business. Trading options and futures, fortunes are made and lost in minutes. But there are compulsive gamblers here, too. People who don't know when to stop. No one knows how many because the industry does not want to discuss it.
If you talk to the people in the industry, they call it investing. But the fact is, it's probably the biggest legal roulette wheel in America today.
No matter how much money I had, it wasn't making me happy. And all I wanted to do was gamble. I just wanted to keep, and my life was a living hell.
Bill is a stockbroker who had made $1 million by the October crash, guessing prices would drop.
Yes. Feeds him all this.
3 months later, he had lost every penny. He checked into this hospital, desperate for a cure.
The problem that I had, though, is I wanted that feeling back the next day. I mean, it wasn't enough that I had all that money that day and the day after. I wanted more.
The comparison to drug addiction is obvious. Experts compare financial gambling to cocaine. The high is similar, and so is the inevitable fall.
In financial gambling, the rush is immediate and the excitement is immediate. You just look at the ticker tape and you immediately got a sense of I've won or I've lost.
Before he lost, Johnny was making over $100,000 a year as a Wall Street broker. Now this young father of 3 owes his old firm almost twice that much.
I sat on a desk with a computer terminal and a telephone, and I could bet my life away with a phone call, and I did.
Both Johnny and Bill were able to work out deals to pay back the big investment companies they worked for, but CBS was unable to find any firm or exchange willing to discuss the problem of compulsive investing. The people with problems do want to talk. More and more are looking for help.
We saw a real flash happen when the market broke on October 19th. The next 2 weeks, 44% of all our calls came from market gamblers who were totally desperate and devastated.
Since that crash, even cautious investing seems like a gamble to many. But the compulsive investors don't care because they are addicted to the action, and it's something they can't control. Gary Reeves, CBS News, New York.
Starting tomorrow, the state of New Jersey will be calling attention to the problem of compulsive gambling. It's declared August Compulsive Gambling Awareness Month. The organizers say a state that promotes gambling has an obligation to help the people who are hurt by it.
Shh. Listen to your mouth. That's the crunchy texture of a Triscuit. And that's the delicious whole wheat taste of a Triscuit. They're made to take on any topping or no topping. Listen to your mouth. Triscuit.
Tony, what are you eating now? Fruitful Bran?
Yeah, it's peaches and raisins.
Hey, Tony, that looks good.
It is. It's Fruitful Bran. It's apples and dates.
You just said it was peaches and raisins.
Well, it was.
Don't lie to your father.
Well, now it's raisins, apples, and dates.
Didn't you just tell your mother?
Hey, it is apples and dates.
Give me the box, Rosa. I'll decide.
Only Fruitful Bran has so many fruits, you get a different fruitful combination in every bite.
It's peaches, raisins, and dates.
So it changed.
Kellogg's Fruitful Bran. It's never the same bite twice.
If you want great tartar control and a great deal more, new Tartar Control Aquafresh will knock you over. It reduces ugly tartar buildup and more. It also helps remove plaque for healthier gums and more. It fights cavities with fluoride and more. It's got great taste no other toothpaste has. Great tartar control, great taste, and a great deal more. New Tartar Control Aquafresh.
Now for indigestion, gas, introducing new Extra Strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new Extra Strength Malox Plus.
Willie Stargell now belongs to an elite group. He was inducted today as the 200th member of baseball's Hall of Fame. During 21 seasons with the Pittsburgh Pirates, mostly in the outfield, Stargell hit 475 home runs. He said he is, quote, living proof that hard work wins just rewards. Big rewards also are coming to the makers of swimwear these days. As Victoria Corderi reports, they have tapped a new, young market.
Nowadays, many of the people making bold fashion statements at the beach are barely old enough to speak. A generation of designer beach babies is making children's swimwear manufacturers very rich. In South Florida, one of the largest manufacturing hubs, it is a $40 million industry, growing even faster than its clientele.
I don't think it's hit its peak. It's going nowhere but up. This fit looks great.
Many of these flights of fancy cost $40 and up.
Bye!
This year, the kids are raving about one thing.
The hole. The hole. Yeah, the hole.
The hole, or monokini, is the summer's rage for girls. And biking and surfing shorts are what all the little boys are wearing.
I think they want to look fashion forward. I think they want to be with it in style. I think that's the kind of mentality the mothers have, and the children are carrying that same mentality.
The secret to this designer beach bonanza is Mom.
It's important for me for them to look their best, so I'm willing to put out more money.
It's totally out of control. Mom may have been raised during the age of Aquarius, but for kids, it's the age of acquisition.
How many other bathing suits do you have?
5 or 6.
There are some diehards who refuse to become young slaves to fashion. They figure Mickey Mouse is always cool, and this is still the coolest. Victoria Corderi, CBS News, Miami.
That's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather will be here tomorrow, and later on tonight, Bill Plant with the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Susan Spencer. I'll see you next week. Good night.
Dan Miller waited a long time to see this. He almost missed it. Not long ago, Dan had a heart attack.
Strength and perseverance.
Since then, his doctor prescribed a regimen of exercise, the right foods, and a Bayer aspirin a day. Studies show aspirin can help prevent a second heart attack.
He was always there when I needed him.
Ask your doctor how Bayer may help you.
I love you, Dad.
Bayer, the wonder drug that works wonders.
Clack fighting, Cepacol mint.
But how does it taste?
Tastes great.
Refreshing.
A mint that lasts.
New Cepacol mint mouthwash.
With low back pain, walking can be agony, where every step shoots pain up here. You know what helps? New Back Guard.
Clinically proven Back Guard is a shoe insert for low back pain aggravated by foot shock. Back Guard with its shock trapper module relieves this low back pain. Watch how it helps absorb shock upon impact to reduce the shock to your back.
Amazing. Something down here can help up here.
New Back Guard from Dr. Scholl's. Absorb shock all day to help keep back pain away.
Into the land of heartburn comes the first liquid antacid without that liquid antacid taste. A really good tasting liquid that puts out heartburn's fire. New Tums Liquid. It works. It really tastes good.
I'm Harry Smith. Monday, alcohol in the movies. Are we sending the wrong signals to our kids? Also, this week, Arsenio Hall and Dionne Warwick on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS. Coming up on Eyewitness News, Metro government has $1 million worth of tickets that no one wants to buy and a new plan to sell them. An alleged argument over a parking space ends in a murder at Franklin gas station. And the man who led a group of young Tennessee athletes to fame is convicted of rape and assault. Eyewitness News is next.
You know what a spec house is? Some contractor builds it, then specs you to like it. But Built Right Homes is a custom building company. So you'll get the home you want within budget on your property anywhere within 50 miles of Nashville. Bring your plans or Built Right will